Apparently you guys didn't hear anything. So
And that's the secret to life.
we'll go ahead and take questions and answers from you guys. And if you have a private question, you can always type it into Apothecary Geek. And we are recording tonight, so it will be up on our YouTube channel, which is Plant Prana Oils, youtube.com/Plant Prana Oils or something like that. So yeah, but you couldn't hear Greg. He just said, ask away.
Yeah, anything goes.
And you're always welcome to type into chat, just regular, or do it in a private message. Hi, welcome.
Hi there. My name is Sahajananda, and I have a question. A friend of mine was just diagnosed with parasites, and I wanted to know if you have any protocols for working with parasites. They're very elusive and hard to detect, from like any kind of specimens or anything. So this was like a medical intuitive that was working with her that found them. And
is she having diarrhea?
she's having let's see, bloating and a lot of lung stuff, low energy, not diarrhea. She didn't talk about diarrhea, but a lot of problems with shortness of breath and weakness. And hold on one second. I asked her before I call.
Sure.
So let me just get the phone where she. Okay, she said she has bronchial spasms, labored breathing, chest pain, tightness around the sternum, low energy, tire easily, foggy brain, tight stomach area, poor digestion, and I don't know if that includes diarrhea, she didn't say, and inability to lose weight. So
okay, so there's several things there.
yeah.
And did she have COVID? Is this post-COVID or?
No, she hasn't had COVID.
Okay.
She's been she's gotten all vaccines, all the 3 vaccines.
Okay, so I mean, a couple of things, like dealing with the breath, that could be any number of things. Is she under a lot of stress or has been under a lot of stress in the past? Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, one thing that can happen is under prolonged periods of stress is there can be starting to be like imbalance in the autonomic nervous system, which is the involuntary part of the nervous system. It's basically everything that runs without us thinking about it. Your digestive tract, your respiratory tract, things like this. And when there starts to be an imbalance, it can throw you into like a little bit of fight-flight mode, or basically what starts to happen is you start to lose vagal tone, which is the vagus nerve that comes out of the back of your head in the medulla area, and all your cranial nerves stay up in your head except for this vagus nerve that goes down and affects the lungs, the heart, and then eventually down into the digestive tract. And so when you start to have poor vagal tone, you're dealing with a system that's going like back and forth between activity and then rest and repair. And when you have poor vagal tone, it starts to become more and more difficult for the body to go into the rest and repair mode, and you stay a bit in the fight or flight mode, or like just action or activity mode. And so one of the things that we want to do is you want to pull that person out of the fight flight mode. I mean, really what you're doing is you're helping to balance the 2 parts of the nervous system while improving the vagus nerve. When the vagus nerve is not functioning properly or has lost tone, it does cause a lot of digestive issues. It can cause nausea, it could cause vomiting, it can cause diarrhea, it can cause constipation, it can cause a vacillation between diarrhea and constipation. And I mean, there's other things we can go on and on, but like you're starting to get the idea, I think. And so there's a couple of things that I would do right off the bat. So one would be there is an oil called marjoram. Marjoram is very relaxing for one. It reduces body tension and spasms, which is very, very good. But part of what it does is it helps pull the body out of fight flight, and it helps to improve tone in the vagus nerve. And so by that, you're not going to completely balance out the autonomic nervous system with just marjoram, but it will definitely improve it. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's not going to be a miracle cure in a single application, but you used over several days, she should start to feel some improvement. Okay, so second, we need to slow down the breath and then also deepen the breath, which are actually two separate things. The bronchial spasms is like kind of actually like the third part. And the thing with the bronchial spasms is it makes it really hard to like you take an in-breath, but on the exhalation is very short and very quick, and you don't always eliminate the used up air in the lungs. And so it makes it really hard to get in a lot of oxygen. And the irregular breath also throws off the nervous system, you know, because the nervous system functions best with just a long, slow, deep breath. So there's like stages that I would do with this. And then I'll also give you a breathing technique that you can do. And so the very first thing you want to do is the use of, probably the easiest thing to do is to use a lang lang or a lang lang, however you'd like to say it, which is you know, a flower. You wouldn't really think of it as a respiratory oil, but taking long, slow, deep breaths will help to slow down the respiratory rate. You know, you're basically, anytime you have short, rapid breathing, the faster the breath, the more it increases body tension, it increases spasms in the bronchioles, and eventually it produces anxiety. It can even turn into a panic attack. And so the first phase of it is to use a lang lang to begin to slow down the breath. And even with the inhalation of the ylang ylang, it will actually even start to calm down a little bit mild forms of tachycardia, which is an elevated pulse rate. And so it starts calming the body down, right? So it would just be like, you know, from the bottle, just long, slow, deep breaths where you just, you know, just directly out of the bottle. And so when she's done that, like maybe 15, 20, 25 times, you know, inhalations, the breath will start to slow down. And then you have a couple of choices. You could use hyssop, especially hyssop decumbens. You could use larch. You could use an oil called Sitka. You could even use myrtle. And again, you would do it in the same way, but you would start taking long, slow, deep breaths. And so what this starts to do is when the respiratory rate has been slowed down, then you're starting to deepen the breath, and you're starting to relax the diaphragm. And so the diaphragm works in conjunction with elevating the ribs with some muscles in your neck. And so these two like rope muscles on each side of your neck help to elevate the rib cage for inspiration. And when the diaphragm is really tight, you have to work extra hard, and that also can cause rapid breathing, short rapid breathing. And whenever the diaphragm is super, super tight, it actually increases tension in the muscles that are in between the vertebrae, right? In between the vertebrae. So basically you start to get a bunch of tension in the spine and spinal cord. And so that starts to impact also the spinal nerves. And so it starts to be this cascading effect where things just start to tailspin a little bit. And so long, slow, deep breaths with the Hyssop decumbens or the larch will help to relax the diaphragm and relax the sternocleidomastoid. Now, there's another thing happening when you start to relax the diaphragm is the diaphragm is also tied to that fight flight activity and the ability to have rest and repair. And so when the diaphragm is really tight, you know, there's body tension, but it's hard for the body to relax. It's hard for the adrenals to calm down, you know, because the tension in the diaphragm. And so by going through and doing this breath, you're really starting to relax the diaphragm to a greater degree. And it starts to take tension out of the spinal muscles. And it starts to also relax somewhat the bronchioles. And so just by going through and doing this, she should start to feel some relief. The Hyssop decumbens and the larch should also reduce some of the spasms in the bronchioles. I mean, there's other things you can use, but I mean, if you already have the hyssop to relax the diaphragm, it will also relax the bronchioles. But then there is a couple of pieces of breath work that you can do to actually further deepen this. It's definitely enhanced when using the essential oils, but even if you didn't have the essential oils, this would still work on its own. And so the first piece of it is to do what you call pursed lip breathing. And pursed lip breathing simply means like you inhale through your nose, and then you kind of close your lips really tight, except for a little tiny hole in the middle. And you make it so that you have to force air out of that little tiny hole. So you're pushing really hard with the breath to force air out of a small hole between your lips. So you're pursing them, you know, you're making them really tight. And by going through and doing this, you're actually manually taking the bronchioles out of a spasm. Right, you're reducing the spasm in the bronchioles. So you would inhale, and then you'll purse your lips, and then you go. And then do it again. Do it about 4 or 5 times. And we'll actually practice this tonight so you can guide her through it. But by going through and doing this, you start to relax the diaphragm, you relax the bronchioles, and you relax actually some of the muscles in the neck. Then the next phase of it is you take a deep breath, you know, inhale through your nose, take a long deep breath, and then you hold your breath, and then you turn sideways, like side to side, and then you bend forward, and you kind of arch your way back, still all while holding your breath. And what you're doing is you're manually relaxing the diaphragm by doing that. So you go side to side, you bend forward, you bend back, and then exhale. And then inhale again, and then hold your breath side to side, back and forth, and then exhale. And you can go back and forth between the pursed lip breathing and the holding your breath diaphragm exercise. And that combination right there is incredibly potent after you've done the 2 oil protocols that we just talked about. But even if she doesn't have the oils, she could go through and do that, and it will start to open up her respiratory tract and her lungs, her diaphragm. And so once you start to do that, her breathing will change. The body will start changing. The digestive functions should start to change a little bit. Some of the pressure that she's feeling on the solar plexus area or abdomen is probably the tension in the diaphragm itself, or it could just be body tension from the rapid breathing. And so that should actually start to shift around. You already have the marjoram. One of the things that you can do with that, just to enhance it, is you can put about 6-8 drops of marjoram in the palm of your hand. Mix a little like carrier oil, like a massage oil or a lotion, and then mix them together, and then you can just rub it on the abdomen. And marjoram is this really amazing thing that will take spasms out of especially the skeletal muscle. And like say you have a cramp in your calf, if you put just a few drops of marjoram, even on your thigh in the middle of the cramp will stop almost immediately. And so the combination of just the marjoram and the ylang ylang and then the hyssop decumbens or larch should resolve a significant part of this. The thing that we look at for parasites, especially parasites down in the digestive tract, is usually a good indicator is diarrhea. I mean, there can be parasites without the diarrhea, but most times diarrhea is present. And that you wouldn't use an essential oil. You would use herbal capsules that you can, get at the health food store or go online and get. And it's best to use capsules rather than tinctures here. And that would be wormwood. And have her take 2 or 3 capsules of wormwood 1 to 2 times a day. That should resolve the parasite issue. If they're concerned with the respiratory issue being parasites, my guess is, it could just be the byproduct of stress. It could be the byproduct of allergies or living in cold area, having colds, flus, anything like that. Poor sleep, or if she's already predisposed to a little bit of anxiety. Most anxiety is actually biological in nature. And so we can do a more advanced protocol where we go through and do a re-education process on the immune system, the nervous system, and the endocrine system that usually will take a bunch of tension out of the smooth muscle of the gut and the respiratory tract. But I would still have them do the things that we already just talked about before we would do the other piece. Just because that other piece is, there's like a little kit that we make for that. And it can release a lot of emotions very, very quickly. And a lot of it can just be stress, but it's better to do these like kind of in baby steps rather than, pedal to the metal and doing it all at once kind of hard. It can shift the body too fast, too quick. And so I would do the marjoram, ylang ylang, and then hyssop. And then from there, let's see how she's doing, and we could reevaluate, and then we could do the regeneration kit. And in fact, I don't even know. I think I just give that to people when I'm treating them. I'm not even sure we have it on the site right now, but we can put it up on the site. But I'd start with that, and then give it like probably 4 or 5 days to about a week of treatment, like daily. I mean, she could do it multiple times in a day, but with that, she should already start feeling somewhat better. The complicating factors might be stress levels that are current. We might need to do some things to help her manage like stress levels, or we might have to do some treatment for past stress, because when we look at stress, we look at the stress response has 4 components to it, and from there, you can say there's ways of preventing strong stress response. There's things that you do when you're in the middle of stress, and then there's things that you can do post-stress, and you want to treat those 4 components before, during, or after. And again, I would start with the things that we talked about, and then once that's in place, treating whatever aspect that she's in would become easier. So it gets a little bit more complicated after the first wave, but how she responds to the treatment will kind of tell us what stage of stress she's in, and will also tell us what stage the smooth muscle is in her gut and digestive tract. But all of that sounds very, very treatable. It's got to be done in some stages. But I'd say within a few weeks, she should be feeling noticeably different. Even if she's not fully recovered, she should be like on her way of feeling recovered.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And feel free to email us or anything, but get started with the marjoram, lang lang, and either larch or hyssop decumbens, and start with that. Treat that for a little bit, and then after that we can reevaluate and see where she's at, and then we can kind of give some direction on, do we need to address the stress, or do we keep going deeper into the physiology of just the digestive tract and respiratory tract. But bronchial spasms can cause a wide range of health issues. And the other thing to take into account with bronchial spasms is that sharp stabbing pain in the body can cause bronchial spasms. So if there's any sort of neurological pain, that can definitely cause bronchial spasms, and strong emotional pain can cause bronchial spasms. And so if there's something like that going on, then we don't need to talk about the details. We just need to treat the physiology of it all.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
That was a lot of information. And
Yeah, it's recorded, so you can go back and listen to it.
right, I'm gonna have to.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's hard to take notes to it all, but yeah, you can go through and listen, and if we need to, like I said, like marjoram, lang lang, and then larch or hyssop decumbens, that would be the first round for a little while. And you don't even need to follow a pattern or anything. Just have her just take long, slow, deep breaths out of the bottle, 15, 20, 25 breaths each bottle. And with that, if she does it daily, she should start feeling better.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
much.
You're so welcome.
And we did try to type it in the chat for you as well. And I know Robert put the link over for the marjoram video we have on YouTube as well for you.
Oh,
Great.
yeah. Good job, Robert. Yeah.
And
Okay.
then, yeah, and if you have more questions, you can always ask. And if anyone wants to unmute yourself, or you can type into the chat as well. Be happy to get those here for you guys. Someone did ask, can Greg please talk about the new oils released this week?
Oh,
And I asked if there were any specifics, because
Yeah.
anyone who saw the newsletter this
Yeah.
week knows we rolled out.
I can't remember, because there's things that we're working on here. So it's best that somebody give me a list, because there's about 2/3 or 1/3 got released, and there's 2/3 that are still prototypes that I can't keep them straight in my head. So
Okay, the sprays and the rollers in particular. So the sprays would be, we have the Palo Santo spray that just came out.
okay, so
And-
Palo Santo is it's good for cleaning the energy body. It's good for it can be even good for a little bit of pain management. It's not really a pain reliever, but because it's such a strong etheric cleanser, sometimes it diminishes pain levels a bit. And it can reduce anxiety, especially if you spray it directly into the solar plexus. It's also good for pre and post meditation for the displacement of energy. Good for when you're doing healing or about to get a healing or before you go to bed, anything like that. You could even use it a little bit for stress management. So very cleansing. Also can be cleansing for your space. Most of the sprays when we make them also have, they're augmented with, either like minerals like magnesium or lithium or multi-minerals, sometimes they have MSM or sulfur in them, but they all have a bit of holy water in them as well. So they are amplified in their energetic effect. And Palo Santo can also be good for cleaning items or cleaning your space. Like say you're in a space where you're going to meditate or there was an argument or something, you can kind of break up the energy of the argument with that. Or one of the things I like to do with Palo Santo is also spray it on my feet, because it just rapidly cleans up the energy body. And I think there was a Panacea spray.
Yeah.
And so Panacea spray, remember that's an immune stimulant. So you could spray it on the, like down your face and your chest area a bit. But one of the things that why I made it in a spray, it would be a good hand sanitizer. And one of the things about Panacea, and we're releasing another oil for another blend for the immunity that's for helping to re-educate the immune response, called Armor. Is that both of those contain camphor, and camphor is really good for regulating the immune response. And so what happens is when somebody is aggressive to you, when you're in unstable situations, when you're in chaotic situations, it's actually unsettling and agitating to your immune response. And it will actually even dictate how you respond to difficulty or people around you over a period of time, eventually becoming anger. It's not a psychological form of anger. It's actually a biological form of anger that eventually turns psychological, but it's basically just agitation in the immune system and your biology that eventually becomes psychological. And so camphor is really good at regulating that response. And by regulating that response, it actually increases and improves your immune system and your immune response. If you think about it, like if you're constantly moving, you're moving your arms, your legs, your back, eventually at some point, you get fatigued and everything kind of diminishes, becomes depleted, and the same thing happens to your immune system. And so sometimes the ability to re-educate the immune system, calm it down so that when there is a bacteria, a virus, a fungus, whatever it might be, the immune system can respond appropriately and with full force rather than being fatigued and needing to be stimulated. A lot of times what happens with the immune system when we try to supplement things is we do things to strengthen it, to fortify it, to stimulate it. But if it's in an agitated state, you're just kind of keeping it in that agitated state. And so the idea with the Armor blend was to really re-educate that. The Quiet Mind blend that we had released quite a while ago is about re-educating the endocrine system. The Armor is for re-educating the immune system. And then we made a chamomile complex that is for re-educating the nervous system. And by going through and doing this, the three of them together reduces anxiety and should improve sleep, improves cognitive function and ability, and reduces anxiety quite a bit. You know, a lot of anxiety comes from smooth muscle, like from either the respiratory tract or the gut. And so by going through and doing this, they also help to stimulate the right side of the brain, which is the part of the brain that sees beyond the senses. So it's more of the intuitive side of the mind. Eventually becomes the part of the mind that perceives and acts on information from the higher soul. And so if you're doing deeper psychological healing or meditation and spiritual practice, these blends together are actually more important. Personally, I actually even add as the fourth component, the clairvoyance blend, just to further stimulate the right side of the brain. And man, whenever I do it, it just knocks me out. Like it takes a lot of tension out of the gut, and it improves the breath, and it also improves digestive function. And let's just say every time I do it, I have a very big bowel movement because my gut is relaxed. And so it does a lot of different things, but the component would be to re-educate those three systems: the immune system, the nervous system, and the endocrine system. All three of those systems actually function as a bigger system unto itself, and those three systems actually all have a memory. So whatever they're exposed to, they adjust and adapt. And even if the exposure was maybe a negative interaction, a negative impression, those systems remember that and keep acting on it. And so at some point, regeneration is to go back and reset those so that they go back to normal function, or, you know, I don't know that it would go back to original, but, you know, because those systems are always evolving, but they would reset and be more proper, more appropriate. But anger is usually almost always immune oriented, especially when it doesn't really seem to have a reason, or if it's the reaction doesn't match the situation. I mean, you can have psychological anger, but a lot of times what we have as anger is like we get triggered and we have a response, and sometimes we're not even sure why. Or we're not sure why we're so like that angry. That is actually your immune system. You know, your immune system, something got triggered, and it's causing a very strong biological response that eventually turns psychological. And so the anger at first is your physiology, and then it turns into psychology. And so the panacea was used for like a hand sanitizer, you know, like for cleaning that up. But part of it is to keep trying to regulate the immune response, because it has a very high camphor content. What was one of the other sprays?
So the sprays were just the Panacea and the Palo Santo. Those were the sprays. And then clarifying question. So the three that you were just talking about was the Panacea spray, the Armor Therapeutic Roller, and the Chamomile Complex, correct? When you were talking about the three together?
No, it was Armor, Chamomile Complex, and Quiet Mind.
Okay, Quiet Mind was for that one.
And then I actually put it together with the clairvoyance oil.
Okay.
Like those four together, like make for like a kit or a therapeutic strategy that is a strategy unto its own. Yeah, you could actually use that to augment just about any other treatment. There's a couple kits that you could do that with, that being one of them.
And then the Chamomile Complex, could you take that internally?
Boy, I have to look up the formula.
And I think the Quiet Mind is just in the regular oil, correct? Not
Yeah, we'll put it out in a roller ball here this week. That was the intention because we were going to release that kit. Yeah, you could take the chamomile complex internally. Yeah, not the armor though, just the chamomile complex. Quiet Mind you could take internally as well. And the only reason is you wouldn't really want to take camphor internally, and the armor has a lot of camphor in it. I mean, it's got turmeric and oregano. It's got a lot of Moroccan thyme, which is, it helps to regulate the thymus and helps to regulate the response to things in the external environment, and helps to regulate the thymus for an autoimmune response where the immune system attacks the body. One of the ways to regulate that is through Moroccan thyme, and Moroccan thyme is also a very strong anti-inflammatory. So it's good on a lot of levels. The armor blend should be a strong anti-inflammatory as well.
And what is in the panacea?
Oh, I know.
Someone just asked.
Yeah. It is lemongrass, sage, camphor, thyme, just red thyme, eucalyptus globulus, bay laurel, clove, and mugwort.
And for the roller balls, what's the preferred application? On the wrist?
You can still inhale the roller balls, but it's the roller balls, it's a 10 ml bottle. 4 mils of that is the essential oil, and then there's 6 mils that is jojoba. And the reason why we're using jojoba is it extends the scent, and it also is technically not an oil, it's a wax. Even though it's liquid, it's a wax, and so it never goes rancid. And so it has, a very, very long life. And so there you could apply it to the chakras, you could apply it to the affected area, or you could apply it to the wrists. So most roller balls have just very little essential oil in it, and it's all massage oil. Ours are therapeutic roller balls. Like, it's not quite the 5 mil bottle. We do 4 mils, and so a lot of times it's a little bit less than actually a 5 mil bottle, even though it's actually bigger quantity. It's just that it's got some jojoba in it.
And then some of the other things that are new are that Birch Complex therapeutic roller.
Yeah, Birch Complex is very good for pain management. It's a different way of dealing with pain. It's got the different kinds of birch in it. It's got wintergreen. It's got some of the other things in it. So just putting it on the wrist should reduce pain regardless of where it's at. Or you can rub it on the site. And then the other thing that's good about Birch Complex is it helps to release resentment out of the body, which is, again, a lot of times more biological than psychological. And so it helps with some psychological healing, but it's a very good way to do pain management. The chamomile complex is actually very good for pain management too, because it helps to re-educate the nerve. And sometimes the nerve gets caught in a pain response cycle, and the body doesn't break out of it. So the chamomile complex is about re-educating the nerve, just like the nerve help is. And it helps to re-educate the nerve to try to break the body out of the pain cycle.
And how about the Root Complex?
Root Complex is for helping to pull the body out of fight, flight, and increase and improving cognitive functions during stress. And it is also for cutting and releasing energetic cords between you and other people, including the psychological contamination from the cords, more so than just Root itself.
And then you had the Trinity kit that includes the Brahma therapeutic roller, Vishnu,
Yeah.
and Shiva.
Yeah.
Open a can of worms with that one.
No, that, yeah. Shiva improves the will function, and it slows down the breath, helps to regulate the breath. Like we were talking about the use of Lang Lang earlier. Shiva is actually a little bit stronger, but you can get by with Lang Lang. But when you slow down and regulate the breath, the will actually increases and improves. And so it helps to also transmute the will from, because you have 4 aspects of will: the will to survive, the emotional will, the mental will, and then eventually the spiritual will. And so the goal is to try to move the will to more to the spiritual will, because then you're more conducted to the higher soul, and it regulates the 3 other aspects of the will. The Vishnu is tied to devotional practice and activation of the heart, being loving, but like not just like activating heart, it's love in action, or another way of saying that is loving kindness. That would be love with action. And so diminishes that which disturbs the soul, which is the potential negative things that are in the heart. And Brahma has to do with conductivity to cycles within the body. Let me look up what's in there. I can give you a better example. Brahma is calming to the mind. It's just very, very calming to the mind. It helps reduce the tendency of your body's instinctual responses, which allows for more cognitive functions to come into place. And so by calming down instinctive responses, you're able to have fuller, deeper emotions or higher emotions, and then fuller and deeper cognitive functions rather than just reactionary functions of the mind. A lot of what we call our mind is just not really us thinking things out. They're just reactions to stimuli in the environment, through the everyday life, your mind that is active when you're out and about doing things at work and whatever. There's not a lot of cognitive function happening. There's more just reactions. So it helps calm that down so that you can have deeper cognitive functions.
And then you have them all as a Trinity kit.
Yeah, as a kit. Yeah. So you could use all 3 of them together as a healing practice. You could say they transmute different aspects, but they definitely all together increase conductivity to the soul and help to develop certain aspects of the incarnated soul.
And this is a question and feedback now. I think that kind of hit most of the new things, so I think we're good with that. This is a couple weeks ago, someone had asked, they were working on a client, and they said, the protocol you gave me on oils, and you also gave them some, I think some pranic healing thing to do on cutting cords and rejuvenating the protective webs, worked super well.
Oh, good.
My client said she felt like weight from lifetimes was pulled off of her. Then my work client, who is a JA, been doing the door J on, a J, jackass.
Oh. Gotcha.
I had to do my own translation there. Have been doing the Dorje on that, and things are noticeably getting better. He's a little more careful with his words now. Thank you so much on that. So I think
Okay.
I thought there was a question there, but yeah,
Oh,
just good
good. I'm
feedback.
glad. Yeah, good. Glad. Good feedback. Therapeutic approach to the JA protocol.
Question, what
Mhm.
oils would you suggest for a bath or a massage for someone who's recovering from COVID?
How bad is the respiratory component? Like, are they able to breathe okay? Are they still having some chest issues? Are they still having difficulty breathing? They still pretty fatigued,
Not bad, just coughing quite a bit.
coughing quite a bit. Let's look up what I have here. I put that under a chronic cough. Okay. Chronic cough. And they didn't have the cough prior to COVID, correct?
I'll let you know what they say about that. They said there is some fatigue too, and correct, there was no cough before.
Okay. So with the cough, you could do a couple of different things. I mean, hyssop is always good for any sort of respiratory thing. With a cough, part of a cough sometimes, because there's different kinds of coughs, right? There's a cough that's producing mucus. There's a cough where you're still getting like an irritation in the throat, and sometimes you'll just have this kind of like dry cough that is just like but it won't stop. Part of that is actually tied to the tension in the sternocleidomastoid, these two rope muscles that run along from behind the ear down to the collarbone in your sternum. And when they get tight from having to work harder because of respiratory issues, what happens is the respiratory issue will pass, but these muscles are left tightened, and they have some spasms in them, and sometimes they can even develop trigger points. And so the byproduct of that is actually what you would call a spasmodic cough. My guess is that's what it is. It also means that they're not getting as much oxygen as normal. The diaphragm is tight. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the session. And so anytime that happens, they're not getting as much oxygen, and they're probably not getting very good sleep, right? So you could take hyssop. If you didn't have that, you could use myrtle, frankincense, even fir balsam. A fancier oil that you could use is anula, and just long, slow, deep breaths with that should relax those neck muscles and help to move the cough out. And I would have them, especially if they had hyssop, when they lay down at night to go to bed, hyssop or anula. I guess you could even use for balsam. Long, slow, deep breaths with those as they're laying in bed, like 15, 20, 25, just long, slow, deep breaths so that their diaphragm relaxes and they start getting better quality sleep. It calms down the skeletal muscle and the smooth muscle that allows them to fall asleep faster. And that will allow for there to be deeper sleep. And so I would treat that right off the bat. The other issue that you have to take into account is sometimes when there's been, depends on how bad it was, how severe the infection was, but sometimes there can be a little bit of scar tissue in the lungs. Scar tissue doesn't necessarily mean like a cut or a tear, but it basically means like the connective tissue has a spasm in it. And just like you would get a cramp in your leg or your arm or something, you can get these kind of they're not really cramps. They call them fascial lesions, but another way of saying it, slang for it, is scar tissue. And it basically just means the connective tissue has a tension or a spasm in it, and that can throw off the breath. And so the best way to go through and loosen that up is the use of helichrysum. Helichrysum is very good for any sort of scarring, but helichrysum, another way to say that is it's also very good for releasing fascia or fascial lesions. And so one of the things that you can do post-COVID or post-respiratory infection, after the infection is gone, you can use helichrysum, strawberry flower, which is in the helichrysum family, or the helichrysum supreme, which is a bunch of different kinds of helichrysum blended together and is a little bit even cheaper than regular helichrysum. And we put helichrysum out at a greatly reduced price because I don't think helichrysum should be a luxury. I think it should be a bread and butter oil that people use. And so we try to keep the cost down as best we can while still getting premium sources. And so use the helichrysum quite a bit. Just open up any potential lesions in the lung tissue. That combination of the large or Hisapticombins for balsam followed by helichrysum should greatly improve the condition. Now, one of the other things you can have them do is you could use something like some form of thyme. You could have them use some form of oregano or even cinnamon. Taking in water, like a drop or two at a time in water, especially in the mornings or afternoon, done daily for a little while, will help to strengthen and fortify the body. I usually use thyme or oregano, but cinnamon will work as well. And that should strengthen the body and reduce the fatigue. I mean, part of it is the body's just fought off this infection and the body is just in a depleted state. And so by going through and utilizing these particular oils, you're able to strengthen the body over a period of time so the body can bounce back. Another one that's slower but is gentler is Ravensara. Ravensara can be good. Naoli can also be good. You can do big dosages of Naoli on the back. Like you could use 50 or 100 drops in a neat application on the back. Make sure that the body is not sensitized to it. But Naoli will strengthen the immune system in the body very, very quickly and should increase and improve energy levels. You could do the same with Ravensara, and both would also boost the immune system quite substantially and reduce the chances of another round of infection or exposure.
So as far as the helichrysum, would you inhale or ingest that?
Inhale. You would inhale that. Like for the lung tissue, you're just doing a lot of deep inhalations.
You gave some great examples of things to do. The start of the question was for a massage or a salt bath. Would any of those be extra good in that form? Or just more stick with this protocol?
Yeah, massage, I would probably do Naoli or Ravensara for the massage. It's not going to relax the body, but it would be strengthening and fortifying. And you could do big dosages with that in the massage. You could also do the same in a salt bath. There's times where like before I travel or after I've gotten back, I'll put actually a whole 5 mils of either bay laurel or Ravensara or Naoli in a salt bath, and not super hot, just like warm bath, and soak in that for about 20 minutes. And the reason why not to do a super hot bath is the hotter the water, the more that the pores are going to open, and you're more likely to have a sensitizing reaction. And so if the water is just like warm versus like hot, like super hot, you usually won't have the sensitizing reaction, and you can take a much bigger dosage of that. Another fortifying bath can actually be Spanish sage. You could do 50, 60 drops of Spanish sage in a bath. I wouldn't do that with normal sage just because there's a little bit of a different chemical composition with regular sage. Spanish sage doesn't have quite the thuyon content, so you can do much bigger dosages, and it's strengthening and fortifying as well. It's very soothing to the nerves. So that could be something that could be done as well.
Great, thank you so much. And again, you guys can always unmute yourself or type in. There's more, but I just want to make sure everyone knows they can always unmute there. I've been working the Ming Meng class and have been repeating the inner sense segment. Inner sense not helping with inner peace at all. I'm experiencing lots of discomfort with both the environment and in the body. I've been having headaches, fatigue, etc. Any suggestions?
Well, so give me an idea. What's going on?
Hi, Greg. It's Channing.
Hey, Jenny.
I'm the inner sense, not inner peace person. I made the decision. I was just drawn to it. I don't know why. I think I was just drawn to Mercury and Archangel Raphael. That's where it began. And then I reviewed the class, and you talked about the inner sense segment can really stand on its own. And so I'm like, that's it. I'm going to double down. So over the weekend, I was doing this, and I was talking to Letty about this too. And the first time I did it, I fell asleep. The second time I did it, I fell asleep. The third time I did it, I started feeling a shift. And then the next day, all sorts of things just kind of came undone, both in the environment with people like at work. And then also I started getting like hives on my skin and headaches. And so this is unusual for me. Like I don't typically get headaches. And so I don't know if, so then I started doing chakra root cleanser just to kind of clear things, took a salt bath. So I did all these things, but I realized like there's something's going on with inner sense, and I'm not sure if I should continue with it or if I should.
Did the skin reactions reduce when you stopped doing the protocol?
The skin reactions reduced when I started doing, when I started inhaling chakra root cleanser.
Okay.
Just kind of something super cleansing. And then I just sat still for a while, and then it went away. So I'm actually at the point where I can separate my emotions with my like physical reactions. And then it stops. So before, when I got a headache, I would just kind of go down that rabbit hole. But now it's like, I'll just sit and I'll breathe and I'll like work my way through it. But with something is inner sense is not, it's not calm and soothing at all for me.
Yeah. I'm looking something up real quick.
And by the way, that class, I really love it because I'm seeing a remarkable shift. Not that it's easy. It's not easy at all, but I'm seeing a remarkable shift. And
so like if you think about what inner sense is it starts to make you more aware of things that are going on internally, and also you're more internally aware of things going on in the environment. You basically you're becoming a bit more sensitive. And so what can happen is For one, it can make like some emotions release. It can bring some thought processes to the mind, but also if there's things bothering you in the environment that sometimes you might not have been aware of, it might bring it to your awareness. But this is what I like to do with something like that. You know, like even in those chakra classes, we could take like some of the segments and really go way deeper than what we can do in the class itself. And so one of the things that you can do with that is, and you already kind of tapped into it with the chakra root cleanser. That was very good instincts, by the way. So one of the things that happens is like anytime you're making a shift in the body, when you're releasing something from the body, you start to release things from the spine, but potentially things like start to shift in the brain, but they don't always release, but they'll start to shift, right? And so kind of a 1-2 punch is, I'll tell you a blend, and then I'll tell you some single oils that you can use if you don't have the blend. But there's that blend, 4 lobes.
I have
Remember
it.
that? Yeah, okay. So you can also use cistus. Cistus would also work, but 4 lobes works really super well. So like, let's use the example of the inner sense. So you go through and you would work inner sense, right?
Yeah, all 4
And then-
applications.
Right. So you go through and you do that. And then you sit there and you go, okay, I'm feeling a little agitated. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, right? Then what you would do is you would inhale the 4 lobes. And what the 4 lobes does is it breaks up the energy. You could say energy on one level, but another way of saying that is you could say conditioning. You're breaking the pattern of past conditioning in the brain. Like, so you're allowing for a new action or a new pathway to open up, rather than part of what happens, and it actually induces a bit of a stress response, is you start to shift things, and then at one point your brain just goes, F this, I'm not doing this anymore. This is too big. This is too much of a shift. And it's like you're stepping out of that box, but the body actually wants to maintain comfort. It doesn't want to always be doing something new or different or shifting. And so the 4 lobes helps to undo the conditioning from the past, and allows the brain, which is the nervous system and endocrine system, to begin to shift. So after you do 4 lobes, then you would do chakra root cleanser, which releases it from the spine. I mean, you are right on the money with the chakra root cleanser, because you're flushing it out of the spine. And then let me look up, because I have a bunch of notes on this.
This is exactly, I love it. I love this because that's exactly what I want to do, is bring orderliness to my mind, which is why I was really drawn to this class.
So you could use, so after the chakra root cleanser, then you can go to mental purity, but you could use like St. John's wort, you could use absinthium, you could use ambret, you could use any of those after the chakra root cleanser, and just, you don't even have to follow a pattern if you just inhale them. Because so first you release from the brain, then you release from the spine. But then if you were to like clairvoyantly observe, the throat starts to expel and the back head starts to expel. So part of it is you're releasing like repetitive thoughts and thought processes, and you're releasing the blockages that inhibit like your higher creativity or your ability to problem solve. You know, so by using the mental purity or the St. John's wort or absinthium, it actually releases that from the throat. Then the back head is ideally you would use Melissa. And you could inhale it, or you could actually even take a few drops of that internally. And part of what you're doing with that is, for one, it's how you're processing information, and two, you're helping to re-educate the more primal parts of your brain. You know, the parts that are tied to like instinctive responses, or responses where, you know, you've had the responses in the past, they've become very repetitive, and they're really almost like automatic in nature, which
Is that
means
autonomic?
yeah,
Autonomic or
it's more of just like an instinctive response.
fight flight?
Yeah, it's like fight flight. They call it like homeostatic responses.
Mhm.
And so you could call it partially autonomic, but it's basically, it's these primal responses that you're not processing them cognitively, you're not processing them with your brain. Your body just is on autopilot. You know, it's just, you know, partially limbic, partially autonomic. It's just these like automatic things that you just, it's a response. It's not like a thought process. And then I mean, even with that, you could just stop right there. But then from that, you could use anything that would stimulate the pineal gland or the mental permanency. So Friar's balsam, you could use like a lotus, you could use angelica, you could use aloes wood, you could use anything like that. And so the way to start this process, like you can add this to any other process, you know, like this is a therapeutic process unto itself, but it's a way to basically augment any other process. But even just doing this, you're literally breaking patterns in the body. You're causing the body to let go of something or go into allostasis, which is the ability to change, and you're allowing for newer or more spontaneous action in the moment. And so the very first step that I use is to start with the basic, and the blend for that is Mithridate, and that is going to be in your kit this coming up weekend. Like, so even if you don't have it, you're going to have it in a couple of days. And so you would start with Mithridate, then you would go to Four Lobes, then you would go to Chakra Root Cleanser, then you go to like Mental Purity or St. John's Wort or Cynthium, then you go to Melissa, and then something to activate the Blue Pearl. So that would be in like my little set that I have, that I use Friar's Balsam, but you could just use Friar's Balsam has a bunch of aloes wood in it. So I mean, just aloes wood would work.
Can
Angelica would work.
Can I use the pineal blend for activating the Blue Pearl?
Yeah. Because that's aloes and lotus. So you could use it's a ton of aloes. Yeah.
Okay, so just to make sure, Inner Sense, I do the 4 applications, and then from there, do I just focus on the basic?
You don't even have to focus on an energy center. You
Just
can literally
inhale?
just sit and inhale. Yeah, the blends will do all. I mean, there's patterns with them, but honestly, sometimes I don't even do the patterns because they're too intense.
Yeah.
Like I just sit and just inhale them. Like I inhale them like 10, 15 times, then move to the next one. And they'll do exactly what needs to be done, you know, because that's tied to what they are. And so, yeah, just inhale them. Don't even worry about where to put your attention, you know, like sit on the couch or lay in bed and just inhale them. And I mean, it literally just flushes things out of you.
That is so awesome. Thank you for this. Thank
Usually
you so much.
usually makes you a little sleepy, just to give you a heads up. Like I did a version of that on Samantha earlier today, remember? And it was kind of early in the morning. And like I did it for like 20, 30 minutes, and she was ready for bed again. Like, you know, and she had just gotten up.
Yeah.
Like, you're ready for the day. And then she was like, yeah, I'm gonna go lay down for a little while.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like it kind of, you're rebooting. Anytime you're making a shift in your fascia or in your mental body, the tendency is to kind of go into that state that's a little bit between being asleep and being awake. And you're usually not there for very long, but you're just kind of rebooting for a little bit. So when that happens, just let it happen, but also kind of plan that that's going to happen. And then, just let it happen, 15, 20 minutes, and then boom, you're kind of back up and going again, but your head's in a different place.
Right. Yep, I got it.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you
And
so
so
much.
this set is basically what it does is it augments anything that you're doing, be it physical healing, psychological healing. It's part of what I used to do when I was doing healings all the time. Was I was always doing components of this when I was doing the healings, because it helps to physicalize the shifts that you're doing. But basically what you're doing is you're raising the vibration and the amount of essence that's passing through the form. So essence, you could call it life force, you could call it energy, you could call it spiritual energy, you could call it soul energy, whatever you want to call it. But essence is passing through the form, so it helps to fuel the body's processes, but it also helps to fuel and accelerate the healing in the emotional and mental body. And so sometimes when you're releasing these things, what you're really doing, and like what you're doing exactly with the inner sense, is you're establishing a new order in your emotional and mental body. And so that means some things are having to go, some things are having to be rearranged. There might be some situations in the environment where like, this has got to get better. Like whatever it is, we can't keep doing this over and over again. And so there is going to be some shifting, but that takes energy or light to be able to shift that. And so what happens is you're starting to shift those things because more essence or more light is passing through you. But you also have to be ready because it's a little bit more effort than normal. It's like almost like things are shifting around a little bit more than normal. It's going to be a little bit extra effort, but in the long run, it's going to be more stability because of the level or degree that you've been shifting over a period of time. So at first, it just feels like things are a little bit accelerated, but then that will pass and there'll be long periods where there's peace because you've diminished the consequences of things not being completely in order. And so it takes a little bit more effort, but once it's in place, there's usually long-lasting stability over a period of time.
That's nice. That's great.
Yeah,
I think the challenge for me is like I have a full-time job and trying to manage
totally.
that.
Totally. And it can manifest in your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it might be relationships at work, it might be an interaction, it might be something within the team, it might be, some of the processes that you have in place. And so, pay attention to some of the things that are happening at work. And if it seems like it's a little bit chaotic, it just means that it's trying to improve, and it's not that it's not stable, it's just it's breaking out of the way that it was doing. And the goal is not to try to put it back, is to like go, okay, this is going to evolve into something new. It's a little bit of extra effort for a little bit, but it's going to get better because of what's doing it. So you almost see like difficult potential issues, the situation to evolve and grow into something bigger or better. And so it is a little bit stressful or fatiguing for a little bit, but long run is it gets you to a better place to where you're either able to be more creative or you're able to not have to put in quite the effort because things are so stable.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Lots of people are getting a lot out of this. Is there an alternative for Melissa?
Um, Mm, okay, so you would have a couple of choices. Um, um, one is we are going to make a Melissa spray that is going to be, I mean, Melissa is expensive, right? It's going to be pretty inexpensive, like like the price of the poplar spray. And so there's that option. The other option would be a Lemmy. It doesn't work as well as Melissa, but it does something similar enough to where if you didn't have Melissa and didn't have access, a Lemmy would be your next choice. I've tried to make blends to do it, and I've never been happy with the blend that I've made. Melissa has always worked best, but yeah, a Lemmy. Frankincense won't work, but a Lemmy will work. A Lemmy and frankincense smell very similar, and a lot of times people use them sometimes interchangeably, but a Lemmy, like the phrase that I would use with a Lemmy is as above, so below. That's like an old alchemical way of describing the effects of a Lemmy. And so you're kind of harmonizing your conscious world with the unconscious world, or that component that has to do with those primal responses. And so I have a couple prototypes that I'm trying to make for this particular component, but I'm still not quite happy with what I've made yet. So until I find something that works as good, or if not better, yeah, that's where we're at. But we are going to release the Melissa spray, just because, for one, it's soothing, it's very calming to the nerves, it's really good for children, but it's a way of doing this instead of having to use the oil. You can use the spray.
And back to previous, when you were talking about the Trinity oils, would you inhale them or
Yeah,
put them on your
inhale.
wrist?
You could rotate them, like applying them to your wrist or to your heart. You could also do this if you want to be fancy. You put Shiva on the crown, Vishnu on the forehead, and Brahma between the eyebrows on the ajna. That's pretty fancy.
I started to use lavender complex just randomly and
Mhm.
felt a gentle shift.
Mhm.
Not sure why I was drawn to it. What else is in it?
So the thing with lavender complex, it is to help regulate the endocrine system. It's not just like a lavender. It is actually to help regulate the endocrine system. Non-specifically, it's not geared towards any particular gland, but it's just kind of calming and soothing to endocrine function. And so it's probably the shift is because of that. Yeah.
Is it okay to use hottish water when taking essential oils internally?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, like a tea or something like that. Yeah, you could totally do that. Or you can put it in your coffee. Sometimes we do that here. We'll, put a drop or two in coffee, or
Back to the Melissa Alemi. What about blending a blend of Alemi and some Melissa?
Yeah, I tried that, and it's still missing something, and I'm not quite sure what it's missing, but I'm working on that. But I would do them each either individually or the spray. Yeah. Yeah, my brain went there too. I was like, "Ugh, what if I just blend the two of those together?" And I was like, it's okay, but it wasn't. I even tried a Lemmy and Cistus together, and then a hint of Melissa. You know, I tried all these different variations, and none of them quite did what I was shooting for.
And I'm just confirming, you said like if there's not the 4 lobes, you said cistus, correct? That made a
Yes,
substitute.
Cistus would work. I have to go back and look at the formula. Cistus or giant fir. Cistus actually works quite a bit better. Giant fir, here's the issue with giant fir is it's not being distilled anymore. And so it will work for now, but eventually you're going to run out and need to have, you know, something different. Hopefully somebody starts distilling it again, but that distiller went out of business. And I've offered big chunks of money to several distillers to distill giant fir again. And I haven't had any takers yet. So I'm still working on it, but it is what it is. You know, sometimes that's the thing is I've had oils that were one of my favorite oils that just went away. And so, you know, we're trying to grow a couple of things that have gone away and distill them and you know, working out the bugs, but eventually we'll actually start distilling some things on our own that have gone away. But for now, you know, we bought up of all the giant fir that was on the market that we could find in quantity. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. So, you know, the different firs have different properties. So,
Greg, on that note, what's going to
Mhm.
happen to the action blend without giant fir?
I have a lot of giant fir, so we're good for quite a while. But
Okay.
yeah, when I say I bought it up, I mean I literally bought anything of any size from anybody I could find. I bought it up because you know we love giant fir, and so it's going to be okay for quite a while.
And then someone did ask to make their own Palo Santo spray. Would it be the spray like we recommend?
Yeah, you could do that. Like a 4 ounce.
Letty posted it.
Right.
If that-
Like a 4 ounce bottle, like, you know, 4 ounces of alcohol. I put about 6 mils of oil in it. And so I make it super, super strong. So like our sprays aren't just like a little bit. I mean, it's basically like a whole 5 ml bottle and then a little more. I also add hydrosol to it, you know, which is the water that is used to distill the plant, and then holy water. And so just putting a bunch of Palo Santo in alcohol will do quite a bit.
And then we have about 5 minutes, and I think that was all the questions in the chat.
Let's do this. Since we were talking about the pursed lip breathing, let's just practice that for, you know, we only have about 5 minutes before we have to shift over to the angel study group. So let's do this. You're going to inhale through your nose and then make your lips really tight and then force the breath out. And then inhale again. And then make the lips really tight. Just leave a little bit of an opening and force the breath out. Okay, and then inhale, hold your breath, and then twist, like twist your body, like your hips stay the same and your upper body is just twisting side to side. And then lean as far forward as you can. Lean back and arch your back a little bit. And then let out the breath. Just be still for a moment. And then inhale, hold your breath, turn side to side. Bend forward, arch yourself back, turn side to side again, and then exhale. And then just be still for a moment. And then take a long, slow, deep breath. Hold your breath. And then just gently exhale. Inhale very slowly again. And then gently exhale. Inhale again. Purse your lips together and then force the air out between your lips. Inhale again. Long, slow, deep breath through your nose. And then lips tight together and then force the air out between tight lips. And then just be still for a second. Long, slow, deep breath again. Hold your breath. Turn side to side. Lean forward. Arch yourself back. Lean forward again. Arch yourself back. And exhale. Just be still for a second. Long, slow, deep breath in through the lungs or through the nose. Hold your breath. Turn side to side. Lean forward. Arch back. Lean forward. Arch back. Side to side. And then exhale. Notice how you feel. Well, it's good to get back tonight with the study group, and we're going to switch over to the Angel Study Group. You're more than welcome to join us. It is a different link, just because it's a different study group, and so feel free to just jump over to the other link that we're posted for you. And I'll see you in about a minute on the other site. And if you don't join us, I'll see you hopefully either this weekend or next Tuesday. So signing off with this one and jumping into the next study. Take care.